On today's episode of Locked On Mariners, what will it cost to land Frankie Montas or Luis Castillo this summer? Jeff Carr of Locked On Reds and Jason Burke of Locked On A's weigh in with their trade proposals. Plus, another questionable source has linked the Mariners to Juan Soto. We'll tell you what it all means coming up. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Locked On Mariners podcast. It is Thursday, July 21st, 2022, and thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms with new episodes coming out every Monday through Friday. I am your host, Nightengale Gonzalez, joined as always by my co-host, Colby Patnode. We cover the Mariners over at InsideTheMariners.com. For Fan Nation over on the Sports Illustrated Network, be sure to follow the show on Twitter at LO_Mariners. Follow Inside the Mariners at Inside Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez. It's DANE GNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. Be sure to also check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/control the zone. We post 2 additional podcasts on there every single week. Again, that is patreon.com/control the zone. We post, and if this is your first time joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, welcome to the show. If you like what you hear, give us a follow or subscribe wherever you're listening to this. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. We are making the climb to 2,411 subscribers, and if we reach that mark by August 2nd, we're giving away a signed Mitch Haniger card. So if you haven't subscribed already, be sure to do so right now. Tell your friends to do it. Tell your enemies to do it, especially. Look at that card. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So on today's episode, we got Jeff Carr of Locked On Reds and Jason Burke of Locked On A's to submit trade proposals to us for Frankie Montas and Luis Castillo. We'll be getting into those later on in the show, and we'll be playing pretty much a take it or leave it type of game with both of those trade proposals. But first, there's another Juan Soto rumor with the Mariners. This time it comes, Colby's very, very excited for this. I can tell, as you can see it on his face. He is so stoked to be talking about Juan Soto for the third day in a row. But now it's Bob Nightengale, everyone's favorite baseball reporter, has linked the Seattle Mariners to Juan Soto, saying that the Nationals are fielding preliminary offers for Juan Soto with 7 teams already weighing in, including 3 in the NL West. He lists the Mariners, Padres, Giants, Dodgers, Cardinals, Yankees, and Mets as the teams that have checked in, at least, with the Nationals. But Colby, we shouldn't be surprised that the Mariners have at least checked in. They've at least kicked the tires and maybe even submitted a starter offer, if you will, right?
I don't believe Bob Nightengale, so maybe I'd be a little surprised. That's just good advice in general. Don't believe everything Bob Nightengale tweets. But I think they probably have at least reached out. I mean, they'd be dumb not to. I think every team in baseball should reach out, to be frank. But obviously Seattle is one of the only teams that kind of fits certain criteria that, you have to acquire somebody like Juan Soto. And I think the 7 teams on that list, for the most part, all meet that requirement. I'm not sure San Diego does. People keep trying to shoehorn them in there, and I just don't see the prospect capital or the depth on their major league team to handle that. So not to mention they're already complaining about the luxury tax, and Juan Soto's making $17 million this year and probably a combined $55 million over the next 2. So we'll see. And plus, if the Nationals really want teams to take on Patrick Corbin's contract, I don't think the Padres can be in this at all. But regardless, the other 6 teams, they all kind of match that criteria. So yeah, it would make sense that Seattle would reach out. Jerry was on 710 Seattle today, and he did mention that they weren't opposed to acquiring stars, and he did mention how expensive things are going to be at the trade deadline, like they are every year, and they're more than willing to trade these top prospects to help their team this year. Didn't specifically mention Soto, did talk a lot about adding pitching, starting pitching in general. So no, I'm not surprised that the Mariners would have reached out already. Jerry, I think to me in this case, this feels like Jerry saying like, here's the best we're going to do. Get back to us if it works for you. Because I really think it's pretty cut and dry. Like Jerry's not dumb. He's not going to be like, well, maybe we can give Levi Stout instead of Emerson Hand. That's not happening. So I think it's very clear. Jerry probably goes into it and says, hey, what do you think of these players? Blah, blah, blah. And then they say, okay, well, here's what we can do. Get back to us if you have any questions or anything like that. I think that's pretty much the approach here. And I think it's a good way to kind of set a baseline for other teams and more or less start eliminating competition, quote unquote. To me, I still think Soto probably ends up with the Dodgers, the Yankees, or the Giants. Those three teams seem to match best in terms of what,
maybe even
not only what the Nationals. What's that?
Maybe even the Cardinals.
Yeah. Although, the Cardinals, because they probably just wouldn't be looking to extend him,
Right.
and the Mariners wouldn't either. So, it's maybe, but I think it's probably one of those three teams. I think the most likely thing is still Soto stays in Washington. But if I had to, put the Mariners' chances on that list of 7 teams there, I would probably rank the Mariners 5th, which is still top 5 out of 29 other bidders. That's something. And it only takes one player for Washington to say yes, that's the offer we're willing to take.
Well, like I said yesterday, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and we don't know what the Nationals particularly think about the Mariners' prospects relative to what other teams have to offer as well. And it's not just prospects for the Mariners either. I mean, they do have some major league pieces or players that are just about ready to take the next step into the major league level, so that are going to be of interest to the Nationals. But yeah, I think at the end of the day here, Jerry Dipoto wouldn't be doing his job if he didn't check in, at least if he didn't make the call, right? Even if there isn't much hope for them to actually land Juan Soto, it would not even trying, not even just gauging what the Nationals actually think, talking to them directly and finding out exactly what it is they're looking for, that he just wouldn't be doing his job. So this is probably all that is him just making the call, checking in, seeing what's up. Maybe he submitted an offer, or at least just said like, hey, we would be willing to part with this, and this. What do you think? Like you said. But other than that, I don't think that until I hear it from a more credible source, honestly, because just Bob Nightengale is so wrong all the time. He is so wrong all the time. He is notoriously wrong. I have rarely seen him properly break news before anyone else and be 100% accurate with it. So until I see it from a more credible source, I'm just taking this mostly as the Mariners are just, they're making the call, which is, I mean, that's common sense. Whether Bob Nightengale said that or not, that's just common sense that the Mariners checked in at some point on Juan Soto.
Yeah, it more to me talks about due diligence than anything else. If we start seeing reports from, Passan or Only, Rosenthal, Morosi, or even some of the local guys like Ryan Divish or Shannon Dreyer, I think that's when you can start to get pretty excited that this thing might have legs. But until then, we'll see. Like I said, I mean, I think Ty and I have talked this to death. Neither of us are opposed to the idea. It gets really sticky when you start talking about adding the type of pieces that I think you're going to need to add to get Juan Soto. I'm not trading George Kirby. I'm not trading Logan Gilbert, period. I'm not trading either of those guys. And I think you're going to have to beat some of these other teams' offers. And I'm not interested in that because I want to win for a decade, not 3 years. There's no guarantee you win with Juan Soto either, by the way.
All right. So speaking of trades, you mentioned earlier that Jerry Dipoto spoke to 710 Seattle Sports today and talked about how their focus is primarily on starting pitching, and it seemed like he didn't rule out the top of the market. So that means Luis Castillo, Frankie Montas, Pablo Lopez, guys like that. Well, we reached out to Jeff Carr of Locked On Reds to craft a Luis Castillo trade proposal for us to react to, and we're going to play a little bit of a take it or leave it type of game in just a moment. But real quick, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by the Sports Card Investor app. We have a great new app to tell you about the Sports Card Investor app. It is a one-stop shop for all your card collecting needs. You can check the market activity and trends for over 630,000 cards, see all the eBay listings, and make purchases right through the app. And I don't even want to know how much Julio Rodriguez cards are going for right now. I bet that's gone up. Stonks, baby, stonks. But if you want to see for yourself, I mean, that's going to be quite the sticker shock, I would think. You can find all the info you need on the Sports Card Investor app right now on your mobile device. It is available for free on the Google Play and Apple App Stores, or you can go to sportscardinvestor.com/locked on. You're listening to Locked On Mariners. Thank you again for making us your first listen of the day. Which NFL stars move the betting line the most? Starting July 18th, Locked On gives you the 50 most valuable players in the NFL from the odds makers over at BetOnline. Available July 18th on Locked On NFL, wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube, just like us. So, how much will it cost the Mariners or any other team to acquire Luis Castillo from the Reds? Well, we asked Jeff Carr of Locked On Reds to tell us his thoughts on how much this is truly going to cost Jerry DiPoto and company. He submitted a mock trade proposal to us, so we're going to react to that. But first, let's check in with Jeff. Jeff, what do you got for us?
Here's what we're saying. The Reds would trade Luis Castillo and Brandon Drury to the Seattle Mariners, and they would get back a haul. They would get back Noel V. Marte, top 20 prospect, very, very good shortstop who's going to absolutely build something with this team next year. Matt Brash, kind of pitcher you could probably call up as soon as he gets here. And Levi Stout, maybe not this year, but ready next year. Then you got, I'm going to switch out Milkar Perez for Zach DeLoach and George Feliz, two good outfield prospects who could add, if nothing else, they're definitely going the kind of depth at the major league level. And we're not talking about organizational depth, we're talking about depth at the major league level, if not be a starter or two for you. So Luis Castillo, Brandon Drury for Noel V. Marte, Matt Brash, Levi Stout, Zach DeLoach, and George Feliz. Now, that's a lot of names. That's a lot of stuff, and you're talking about a huge haul of prospects, and you'd love to see exactly what the Reds can do. This is the type of thing that I'm talking about. This is why this is the biggest story of the second half for the Reds.
So, okay, as Jeff said, that is a massive haul from the Mariners. A lot of players switching hands here. The Mariners not only get Luis Castillo in this deal, but also Brandon Drury, but they have to give up Noel V. Marte. They have to give up Matt Brash. They have to give up Levi Stout, Zach DeLoach, and George Feliz. Colby, what do you think?
I think the inclusion of Brash maybe tips the scale a little bit too far, just because Brash can help the Mariners this year. I do wonder how Jerry feels about Matt Brash, because obviously, I don't want to say they gave up on him as a starter. They did for this year, but I don't know if that's necessarily a long-term thing. But if it is, then they should have no issue including Brash in a deal like this, because if you don't think Brash can start, he's not a top, 6 or 7 prospect. It's just not in the Mariner system anyway. So, Noel V. Marte is about what I thought for a headliner. Jeff would learn fairly quickly that Noel V. is not a shortstop, but he should be a pretty solid third baseman. And he is on a bit of a heater right now. So there is possible he could be up next year. Levi Stout is a guy that we know the Reds like. They almost acquired him when they traded Jesse Winker to Seattle. So that makes a lot of sense. I don't think Jerry's going to have an issue with that. And then the Zach DeLoach and George Feliz, how Jeff kind of broke it down as like almost 2 separate trades. DeLoach and Feliz for Drury, I would absolutely do in a heartbeat. And DeLoach is performing a little bit right now. I mean, and Feliz certainly has some upside, but that's a deal you make if you're a contender. So I think the Brash thing is maybe a little too heavy. I think if you're looking for something like, for me, it'd be something like Marte, maybe Levi Stout and Adam Macko, I think is something I would try, but honestly don't think it's that far off. It sounds like a lot, but if the Mariners really do think Matt Brash is a reliever for them, then yeah, they should be willing to trade him. And the Reds, by the way, can offer Matt Brash a chance to start for a couple of years and try to figure things out. So
Yeah.
I think there are some really good elements to this trade. I think for me, it's a little on the high end, but it makes sense. Castillo is one of the top arms available, and he's not going to be cheap.
Yeah, so I'm mentally prepared. I think any Mariners fan should be mentally prepared here that if you're going to acquire Luis Castillo at the deadline, Noel V. Marte is probably going to head to Cincinnati, or it's going to be Harry Ford or Edwin Arroyo. So that's that's what it's going to cost. That's just the fact of it. So that's fine. His inclusion is fine. The Brash thing, yeah, I agree with everything that you said. I think if the Mariners just view him as a pure reliever forever in their organization, then I think you do consider that, because I mean, while I really like the idea of him as a reliever and I still believe in him as a starter, if they don't believe in him as a starter, then he's not as valuable to the Mariners as he might be to the Reds. And so, that would give him an opportunity to actually figure some things out there in the rotation in Cincinnati. Levi Stout, like you said, he was one of the players that they had to choose from for the player to be named later in the Jesse Winker deal. They ended up taking Connor Phillips. We had also been told that he was a big topic of conversation for the Reds with the Sonny Gray negotiations with the Mariners. So that makes a ton of sense. And then George Feliz, Zach Deloach for Brandon Drury. Yeah, just like you, I would absolutely do that. So for me, even though that I would probably change the Matt Brash thing, I'm going to take this deal. What about you? Taking it or leaving it?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't love it, just because obviously I'm a big fan of Noel V, and Brash is certainly fun to think about in the bullpen. But at the end of the day, we're talking about trading my number 2, number 8, number 11, number 24, and like number 35 prospect for a everyday second base option and a year and a half of a high end number 3 starter. I think you probably pull that trigger.
Yeah, and even though that it feels a little bit aggressive, right, with the Matt Brash inclusion, you might need to get aggressive here to outbid someone like the Yankees or the Minnesota Twins, who've been reported to be interested in Luis Castillo. And you're at this point now, and Jerry Dipoto even said that today on 710 Seattle Sports, like, it's going to cost a lot. But we're in a position right now where, that makes sense for us. We're going to have to do that. We're going to have to do that a little bit. We're going to have to get aggressive and maybe pay $1.10 for $1. It's just, that's what you're going to have to do. So, I think this is the sticker shock is a little much, but I would probably do this because, like you said, you figure out your second base situation and you add a potential number 2, probably a number 3 starter to your rotation. I mean, that's exactly what you need right now. That fills 2 of your biggest needs on your to-do list right now. So yeah, if that's what it costs, I think you still do that. All right, so we are not going to stop looking at trade proposals. We got another one coming up for Frankie Montas from Jason Burke. Locked On A's. We'll check in with him in just a moment. But real quick, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by Built Bar. From the people who invented healthy and tasty comes the latest gift to your taste buds. You've probably tried the amazing Coconut Brownie Chunk Built Bar, but guess what? Your friends at Built have given Coconut Brownie Chunk the Puffs treatment. That's right, the Coconut Brownie Chunk Built Bar flavor you love, and a deliciously chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like a fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness. But stop drooling and listen, they are good for you. We're talking low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and all delicious. Coconut Brownie Chunk Puffs are only here for a limited time. Go to built.com right now to make sure you don't miss out. They are going fast because they taste amazing, and all Built bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. The best part about Built Puffs is, of course, they taste amazing, but you can enjoy them guilt-free because they are actually good for you. They are the perfect treat, perfect for when you've got a craving, you need to satisfy your sweet tooth, or if you need a quick, healthy snack, they are an excellent source of protein. We're talking delicious coconut, rich, sweet brownie, creamy marshmallow. Stop fantasizing. Get to Built.com to order your box of Coconut Brownie Chunk Built Puffs right now at Built.com. Use promo code LOCK15. That's LOCKAD15 for 15% off your order. Again, that's LOCKAD15 for 15% off your order at Built.com. So it feels like an entire year that you and I, Colby, have been talking about Frankie Montas and the Seattle Mariners. And you know what? I think it actually has almost been about a year because we've been doing this podcast for 11 months now. And pretty sure we've been talking about Montas since last summer, really previewing the offseason for the Mariners. So it seems like as long as his shoulder holds up here, because he did have a little bit of a shoulder issue, had to leave his last start against the Mariners after just one inning, did pitch again, but maybe that will scare some teams away. Maybe that lowers his trade costs. Who knows? But let's just check in with the expert himself. Jason Burke of Locked On A's submits a trade proposal for Frankie Montas to the Seattle Mariners.
So I've been summoned here today because you want Frankie Montas. I have a Frankie Montas. How's it going? It's Jason Burke from Locked On A's. I have an offer for you, and I assume, I've been listening to the podcast. You guys do not want to trade Julio Rodriguez in a Juan Soto deal, and my only assumption is you're saving him for a Frankie Montas deal, so I accept. We will take Julio Rodriguez for Frankie Montas. You're welcome. But assuming that that's not the trade that you're going to offer me, I have a trade offer for you. I'm going to go with your number 4 overall prospect, and that is Edwin Arroyo, shortstop. He's 18 years old. He has a lot of potential, but he's also 18 and very unproven. I think that is a fair headline of this deal. Coming in number 2 in my trade proposal, we got Adam Macko. He is, I don't know, 21? He's a lefty. I'm reading things off the page. He is the number 9 ranked prospect in the Mariners system. And then, as a wild card throw-in type guy, he could end up being, something. Could be nothing. I don't know. He walks a lot of guys, similar to Matt Brash. Maybe he's the next Matt Brash, and that's Travis Kuhn. I want Travis Kuhn as a throw-in, and if I'm going for a second throw-in, give me Larry Bernandez. If you don't know who Larry Bernandez is, look him up, kids. He's fantastic. He was really good. Know your Mariners history. That's my offer. What do you guys think?
I don't know if Larry is active anymore, Jason. I haven't seen him around here in a few years, unfortunately. We miss Larry, though. Larry's a good guy. Larry's a good pitcher, too. So the trade proposal from Jason Burke for Frankie Montas is Edwin Arroyo, Adam Macko, and Travis Kuhn, someone we haven't talked about much on here, but has been growing a lot of buzz as a ready reliever arm. Pretty electric stuff there from Travis Kuhn. So what do you think about this deal, Colby?
Yeah. First of all, Jason, I would say that you're underselling Edwin Arroyo a little bit here. I have him as the Mariners' number 1 prospect. He has been crushing the Cal League, showing power that nobody really thought he had. He's definitely going to stick at shortstop. There's no question about his defense. Can run a little bit. He's got an attitude. I think he can hit. Is the power legitimate when he gets to the big leagues in like 4 years? I think it's probably like 15 home run power, not whatever he's got now, which I think is like 35 home run pace. But he's going to be a very good defender. He's going to run the bases pretty well. I think he's probably going to hit 260, 270, 15 home runs. I think maybe what you're looking at here is like a maxed out JP Crawford. And then you're going to give up Adam Macko, who I really like. I have him number 12 in the Mariners system. He's been hurt this year. He's missed some time, but he's got really good stuff. It's 6-foot lefty. Typically that's not what you hear, but 95, 97 on the fastball, pretty good curveball. Throw strikes. He's been good when he's been healthy this year. So I think it's a really solid secondary piece. And then, Travis Kuhn is a guy who is in a lot of people's like top 25 for the Mariners. He didn't crack my top 30, but that's just because he's a pure reliever. So to be quite frank, I don't care about Travis Kuhn. Like, if there's one thing I can trust Jerry Dipoto to do, it's, go out into the doldrums of minor league free agency and find another Travis Kuhn. So I don't have an issue with that. So I think, this
found like 3 Travis Kuhns during the draft, honestly, this past week.
Probably did. I just, they drafted Troy Taylor or whatever his name is twice for a reason. So I Travis Kuhn, fine. Take him. I don't care. You want Stephen Kolek with him too? We'll do it. Fine. I'm doing this deal. I really like Edwin Arroyo. He was a player that I wanted the Mariners to target in the draft last year. So I've been, keeping a close eye on him because what can I say? I like it when I'm right. And in this particular case, I was right. So it's I don't want to trade him. I don't want to trade Harry Ford. I don't want to trade Noel Marte, but let's be real here. You have to give up at least one of those guys to get something good. And Montas, I think, is a hair better than Castillo. I think he's a legitimate number 2. I would need to see medicals. I would need to see him pitch a couple times before I make this trade in August. But I think at that cost, I probably have to pull the trigger.
Yeah, I think even with the shoulder issue, this is something you just got to do. Plus, I think this is I mean, you're giving up Edwin Arroyo, of course, who I think you and I both consider to be the best prospect in the Mariners system, but this does feel relatively affordable for the Mariners, all things considered. When you think about this market, when you think about the state of this market for starting pitching, to get a year and a half of Frankie Montas, who's a legit, mid number 2, high end number 3, that's everything you want right now. That's basically the top of the market, alongside Castillo, Lopez, etc. So to get that guy for one of your top prospects and a solid arm in Adam Macko, who we both really like, and a reliever, yeah, I'm doing this in a heartbeat. Absolutely. Now let me ask you this. What do you think is the better offer? Which deal would you rather do right now? The Reds one that Jeff offered, or this one from Jason?
Trick question. The correct answer is to give up Deloach and Feliz for Drury, and then on this side give up Arroyo and Macko for Montas. That is the correct answer.
There you go.
If I had to pick just one trade because I'm uncreative, like certain somebody here, to my this side, it's mirrored. I always get it mixed up.
You got it right.
Yes, but if I had to pick one, I would pick the Montas trade. I think he's a better pitcher, and I think the cost is actually a little bit cheaper. And again, that's coming from somebody who really likes Edwin Arroyo, and I really do like that J.P. Crawford comp. And any Mariner fan could tell you, if you have J.P. Crawford on your farm system right now, with a bit more power, that's a 3 or 4 win shortstop that you have control over for the next 10 years. So it's not an easy thing to give up, but I think you do it. I think you're in that position.
Yeah, I think you have to do it. I would rather give up Noel Marte in this deal, but I'm not too miffed about it to the point where I'm saying no. Right.
Like for me, I have Arroyo number 1 and I have Noel number 2. So
yeah. So I would still do this deal because you're at this point in your season right now. It's so close. You're already in a playoff position right now, and you're right there on the cusp. You just need a couple more pieces, and Frankie Montas is one of those pieces that you really desperately need right now because of the state of your rotation. Your rotation has been remarkably healthy, and I don't want to jinx the Mariners here, but there's no guarantee that that's going to continue. Right? There is absolutely no guarantee of that. And on top of that, you have the innings cap for George Kirby looming. You got to add to the rotation, and you should add impact to the rotation as well. And Jerry DiPoto also talked today a little bit about, adding someone that's kind of a timeshare on the back end of the rotation. I think they need to do that as well, but I think you really do need to add that impact towards the top or the middle part of your rotation right now. So Montas gets that done. Castillo gets that done. If it's going to cost you, like I said, $1.10 to acquire $1, you got to do that right now. That's just what the market dictates, and you're not gutting your entire farm system for either one of these guys. Even with these deals that Jason and Jeff have offered, doesn't gut the Mariners farm system whatsoever. They're still in a very, very good place heading into the offseason to continue to build on the product right now. So yeah, I would take both of these deals, and I like your idea, right? Just go get Drury and then go get Montas for this deal. I think Castillo is just going to be really expensive, and there's a lot of teams on him right now. We've heard about the Yankees, we've heard about the Twins. Those teams have a clearer path to the World Series than the Mariners do, and therefore might be willing to get more aggressive than the Mariners are. So see how it goes. That's going to do it for our show today. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow Inside the Mariners at Inside Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, DANE, GNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode, whether you're listening or watching it. Thank you again for making us your first listen of the day, just like you do here every single day. Now make your second listen of the day Locked On MLB Prospects. Host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts, just like us. And with that, have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Mariners baseball is back tomorrow.